What is the real meaning of Christmas? Has the commercialism hijacked the spiritual meaning of Christmas? What are the main spending patterns that exist leading to Christmas Day? Are churches also cashing in on the Christmas spirit? What time is it? It's question time. Welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tseidu. Christmas is celebrated all around the world. However, it has largely lost its religious meaning. For many, it has become an occasion focused on visiting family and friends and exchanging gifts. And for others, this is the time to recklessly spend beyond their means and pay back later. As business people cash in on the Christmas spirit, we ask, is Jesus still the reason for the reason, or rather for the season? Or has Christmas become too commercialized that it has lost its true meaning? My guest today, Louisa Hetisani, Credit Information and Research Manager at the National Credit Regulator. Let's look at the spending patterns during this season. What are they? What are people spending on?
Okay. Typically, as the NCR, what we see is that for the period leading up to December, that is the quarter from October, November, December, we typically tend to see an uptick in the value of credit that is taken by consumers. Now, this is different types of credit. It's mortgage lending, it's cars, it's personal loans, it's store cards. So it's all forms of credit. And then what we tend to see is that there's a tapering off in the first quarter. But what we've been cautioning is that what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years is that consumers tend to take up what are known as personal loans because those loans are, easy to come by.
Yes, and then comes January.
Then comes January. People, for example, if I had a bonus in December, what we advise consumers is, prioritize your home loan, prioritize your car repayment, save something. For example, if December comes and I don't have a savings fund to go on holiday, then it's too late to go on holiday. If I take my bonus, blow it on a holiday which is unplanned, come January we know there's school fees, there's stationery, there's all these expenses. Now if you haven't saved, that means now you have to go out and get a personal loan, which the interest is very high when compared to other credit types.
What is the problem with South Africans?
I think as South Africans, we tend to, not exercise our rights. For example, as a consumer, I have certain rights under the National Credit Act. I have a right to shop around for credit to get the best deal. South Africans typically, we tend to be very grateful when we get an offer for credit. We don't compare, we don't shop around. And what we see, for example, if I can just share the statistics that we see from credit bureaus, we've got about 20 million credit active consumers in South Africa, and 55% are in good standing. That means those people are not behind by not more than 2 months on their accounts. And the balance of 45%, people have got adverse listings, people have got judgments, people have got admin orders against their name. So that means that we are a society that tends to, use credit which is easily available.
But how will it not be easily available when you're sitting at home pondering where your next meal is going to come from, and then you get an SMS which says you qualify for a loan. Please send whatever the digits to this other number.
Okay. Now, the question that you just posed. Now, if I'm sitting at home and I don't have money to buy bread, and if I have to take out a loan to buy bread already, that means I'm in financial distress as a consumer. I should not be taking on more credit to be buying bread. That means we must live within our means. We must have budgets. Things like bread, your transport, your electricity, those are things that are typically what we term living expenses. Those are things that should come out of your salary, out of your normal salary. Now, when you find yourself now taking on more debt to service your living expenses, that means now you're in serious financial trouble. You need to reconcile your position as a consumer. You need to do something, cut down, have an honest conversation with yourself about your own finances.
You would be a very unpopular person. Because what you're saying, I don't think a lot of South Africans want to hear.
But it's the truth. I think, credit on as a product is not a bad thing. We use credit, for example, to acquire assets like houses or to buy cars. It only becomes a problem once you acquire it to finance your living expenses or when you take it on when you don't really need it. Now, remember, when you see these adverts, they'll be saying, low installments,
yes.
Cheap credit.
First payment in June 2015.
Now imagine. Now there's interest. What you need to consider as a consumer is that, for example, when you go in and you apply, once let's say you decide to take on the loan, there's something called initiation fee, which credit providers have a right to charge. There's a monthly service fee. Most times there's insurance which is built in, which the credit provider requires you to have as a consumer. And then there's the interest. What we do as South Africans is typically we tend to look at the installment and say, I'm paying about 200.
Yes.
You don't look at what is the total cost of that item.
And then how do you then help us?
Okay. Some advice, for example, for consumers that are not in financial distress, let's live within our means. Let's have proper budgets. Let's keep to the budgets. Let's differentiate between needs and wants. For example, it's Christmas time, there's bars at the malls. Let's say I'm going to buy presents. I must come there with a budget. I'm going to spend 200 and that's it. I shouldn't get there and then be dizzied by the lights and then I just spend more than I should. And for those people that are in financial distress already, sit down and see where you can cut. And if your situation is that bad, there's always debt counseling, but that is a last resort for people really who are beyond, helping themselves.
National Credit Regulator, how do you affect my life?
The National Credit Regulator, we are an organ of state. We regulate the credit market. We regulate credit providers, credit bureaus, and debt counselors. So all credit providers in this country have to comply with the legislation. There's certain thresholds in terms of who can register and who shouldn't register. But everyone has to comply with the Act. For example, if I'm a small lender in some, rural town, practices like retaining people's PINs and cards and,
IDs.
Social IDs.
But
that is the typical no-no.
Let's use common language. Lender, kimashonis. All right. So, do people have rights over bumashonis?
All lenders have to comply with the legislation. Now, if you have to use a mashonisa, if we use that term, for example, if the lender is registered with the NCR, there should be a decal or a sticker at the door. There should be a certificate that shows that this lender is a credible lender. Okay. Now, if your credit provider has to take your ID card or your PIN already, that's warning bells. It's illegal in terms of the Act. And the fact that he has to take your ATM or ID means that most times I don't even qualify for the loan. All he's interested in is that as soon as your salary hits your account, he should be the first person to withdraw. Now, that is also illegal in terms of the Act.
Manetson, let me thank you for the time.
Okay. Go.
All right. We are taking a quick break. When we return, continue our discussion on this Christmas Day. Please don't go away.
The session musicians, you want a particular sound on your record. Who do you get? Abo Butemp, Abo Victor Masond, Abo Godfrey Mqina. So these are the people who play a very, very vital role in making us.
The South African Horror Fest is the only inclusive event of its kind over Halloween season. It screens a host of exciting horror or thriller movies from around the world.
Shishani achieved stardom when she won a live music competition in Namibia titled Last Band Standing in 2012.
Join Musam Khalipi on Afro Showbiz every Saturday at 19:30 CAT.
A grandmother in Hector Spruit in Mpumalanga has made an impassioned plea for her 2 grandchildren.
13-year-old Tulani Dlamini and 21-year-old Hloniphile Filani were taken
away by a stranger who allegedly promised them better education in England. But the 2 recently called their grandmother. They told her they're in Malawi.
It's 100 years since the start of the Great War, and today 14 South African World War I heroes, all recipients of the Victoria Cross, were honoured.
The Ring of Memory carries the names of 600,000 soldiers who died in the region.
Primetime News, daily at 6 p.m. on SABC News. Zoom into Africa. This is Burundi. The president is Mr. Pierre Nkurunziza. Burundi got independent from Belgium on 1st July in 1962. The population is more than 8 million people. One of Burundi's major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is Burundi franc.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. I'm now joined by Bishop Anampai from the Rivers Apostolic Church in Katlehong and Reverend Mongezi Kuma from St. Monica's Anglican Church. Welcome to the program. Babkum, let me start with you. The commercialization of Christmas, where does it come from? Or even perhaps let's start with, what is Christmas supposed to mean?
Yeah, I think it's better to start there, what it's supposed to mean. Christmas is about God's gift to humanity, the gift of Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ who embodies God's love, God's sense of forgiveness, and God's mercy and God's justice. And out of that, I think it generates a spirit of generosity amongst people as a response to the gift of Jesus Christ to humanity. In other words, one of the things that's expected of us as a response to that gift is to embody a generous spirit towards other people. And so in terms of your first question then, it then means the marketing people then exploit that generosity of spirit that is supposed to exist amongst people. A willingness to forgive one another, to take an opportunity to reach out and touch each other's lives in ways that it makes us different, as symbolic of the birth of Jesus.
Now, Bishop Mpai, have you as the church lost Christmas to business?
In a way, I would say yes, because the focus is actually shifted from the very core reason why we have Christmas. Christmas, it's all about love. God gave us his son to come and die for us as we are sinners. And basically we are giving the child and we're giving the son. And that's the focus. That's where we should put our attention to. Because Jesus Christ is actually God who came to the world in a form of a son, that we sinners should embrace the child so that we may be forgiven. So by accepting Jesus Christ, you are forgiven of your sins. So that is basically that.
But now, are you, as the church, not cashing in also during this festive season?
Well, I don't know how to approach this, but obviously people out there focusing on buying, clothes, and some renovate houses, some, it's actually the time where everybody has money. Some have their own 13th check and they start looking at things that they could not acquire right through the year. And this is basically the time where everyone has money and they focus on
buying whatever they needed. But the reason why is Christmas. As I said earlier on, we should actually point people to Christ. It's a time where actually now it's an Advent season. The Advent season basically says we're preparing ourselves for the birth of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And during that preparation, we tend to move away from the spiritual aspect and we focus more on business.
Okay. Reverend Gum, are you not cashing in as the church on the available resources from members?
No, we're not. I think I can say that unequivocally. Christmas is preceded by a period of preparation and self-denial. And the church hopes to teach during that time the need to focus on the person and the preparation and the anticipation for the coming of Jesus.
Yes.
So in that sense, we don't encourage excessive spending, both on ourselves and on the church itself for that matter. We are not. The challenge, in fact, that faces the church in a broader sense is that the power of marketing is such that, as the bishop said, it draws people away from their focus, and in many instances manages to suck them away from it. But the church itself, as across the board, no, it's not. We don't even ask people to increase their giving during Christmas.
So it remains 10%.
10%, yes. It's not that now you must give more because you have a bonus.
Okay,
No.
so are you losing the battle to the marketing agents?
The church, as an institution, as a church, never operates in an environment that is always conducive to its purpose. And so, because
What
of
do you
that,
mean?
I mean the church is always finding itself in an ongoing battle.
Yes.
In other words, it doesn't find itself in conditions that are favorable to its mission.
Okay.
So we are not losing the battle, but as somebody would say, we simply don't give up on hoping to win the people into the fold of the church. But I don't think anyone in the church can actually say, are you losing the battle now?
Bishop Mpai, perhaps let me pose the same question. People want to spend. Would you say that, please don't buy me a car because you don't have money to pay for your children's school fees in January, as the bishop of the church?
Oh yes, certainly. The church is there to make sure that family structures, exist and be able to provide for children. Now, as the bishop or the church, I don't think it's correct to say, the congregation should buy you a car or whatever that the bishop or the pastor would need. I don't think it's fair. As I said earlier on, that Christmas is all about focusing on the spiritual part. It's just that, we have the spiritual part and also have the needs of, needs of the flesh, because we want things that will actually benefit the not the spiritual part, but the other part, which is the flesh.
Okay. I want you to hold that thought there. We'll have to take a quick break. When we return, I want to just share with you or pose some challenges to you, which have got to do with money in the church around the festive season. But for now, we're taking a quick break. Please don't go away.
huge part of this African growth is technological innovation. Governments here are working hard to ensure that the continent's technology matches that of more advanced countries.
High-speed internet connectivity is regarded as a utility.
As a continent battles diseases like Ebola, social media becomes the preferred method to share information.
People on social media are some of the society's most influential.
To find out more, join me, Phumelele Zondi, on Network every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. only on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Our guests are Bishop Anampai from the Rivers Apostolic Church and Reverend Monges Guma from St. Monica's Anglican Church. Now, Babkum, there's a reality which we have to face, that whether it be festive season or not festive season, there's a lot of money that is circulating within the church. Does it not put people under pressure that, look, we've been donating throughout the year, why don't we do same? It's festive season.
No, I'm not saying people don't donate to the church during festive season. But I think the issue here is, in fact, we actually encourage people to give donations, for instance, for certain special projects, especially for children in need in most cases. But what we are teaching, basically, in all of that, is that Christmas is not a time for self-indulgence. Christmas is more a time in which you go out of yourself in order to be present in a life of another person. And therefore, the encouraging of giving is done within that context, whether it's providing toys or clothing or food for children who are not likely to get that from their parents. So the spirit that is that spirit of love, the spirit of generosity, that is being encouraged, so that even the people themselves, we actually discourage them from even buying new cars for themselves because they have this extra money. Because then we're saying life is a little bit more than just December. There's January and there are other responsibilities that comes up. And as you know, anecdote tells us that sometimes you get people who buy furniture and then in February that furniture is picked up. And we're saying people shouldn't put themselves in that situation. They should actually limit their sense of spending, their sense of wanting to satisfy what the bishop called the needs of the flesh. That it's not always possible to get what you want, but it is always important to limit the extent of what you want.
Okay. Bishop Mbai, are you finding it easy to tell your congregation not to be extravagant? I mean, people need to, there's this period where somebody say, I want to have a me time, I want to spoil myself, and they are not able to do that maybe throughout the year. And here comes December, there's some 13th check or some extra money which one feels like, blowing up, if I may use the word. You wouldn't be popular if you were to tell that person, wait, this January.
I think as the bishop or the church itself, we're there to encourage people out there to be conscious. Having money doesn't mean that you can just spend it willy-nilly. There's responsibilities. And as I said, the church is interested in building that, family structures. I mean, if you can look around, we have so many children out there who actually do not have parents. Some of them, they come from poor background. And this Christmas is just that time where we can, share with the disadvantaged, people who do not have any means whatsoever. And, you know, if you look at the needs and wants, I mean, we all want so many things. But most of the time, things that we want actually, you know, we derive short-term, you know, I would say short-term
pleasure.
Pleasure, yeah. And but those that we need are the things that will be there, that will have a lasting, you know, benefits or effect in your life. And by telling the congregation that you have money now, there are certain things that you did not have right through the year, yes, but you have to look and prioritize. Kids are there, families
but
are
maybe
there.
it's easy for you to say that because the people, when they donate during the year, I mean, the money comes to you. No,
No. No,
I mean, let's
come.
tell the truth. Bishops are making a killing out there.
No,
that's more anecdotal than real. I mean,
no,
yes.
Reverend Guma, wait. Are you saying that bishops are not making money out there?
No, they are. They are. What I'm saying is that the money that is given to the church,
yes,
does not necessarily go into the pocket of the bishop. That's the point I'm making. They do, like anybody else who's in a work environment. But I think going back to the Christmas thing is to say, you see, one of the challenges for us as a church is not just to talk about money and gouging on personal things. We also teach, as exemplified by Christmas, that the me is not I, is we. The me time that you say you want should always be considered not as a personal self-indulgence.
Okay.
But it has to do with a sensitivity and a predisposition that recognizes the existence of other people.
Okay.
So that you don't get then a husband who goes to buy himself a car and leaves his family in the lurch, including his wife and his kids and grandparents.
Okay. We've run out of time, but Bishop Mbai, let me give you the last word. Your message on this day of Christmas to Christians and those who do not celebrate Christmas but are watching us.
Okay, my message out there is that we should all focus on the love of God that we're given a son. And if we embrace the love, when you love, it's easy to give, it's easy to forgive, it's easy to actually be there for someone who really needs you.
Okay.
I think, in brief, I would say, let us love one another as God loved us.
Okay. On that lovely note, that was Question Time for today. A big thank you to my guest and to you for watching the show on this Christmas day. We welcome your feedback. QuestionTime@sabc.co.za, or you can tweet us. Our Twitter handle @QuestionTime24. You can also follow me on Twitter @Mpho Tsedi. From me and the crew, have yourself a wonderful Christmas. Goodbye.